Hello, my friends. Hello, my family. How are you doing this evening? It is Wednesday. It is May the 8th, 2024, and it's around 7 o'clock on the East Coast. And I am your host. I am Dr. Paula Obie, and you have tuned in to the Power of Transformation. We meet here every Wednesday. We have inspiring conversations with some of the best guests ever. And if I don't have a guest, then I'll just talk to you from the heart. And everything is just always just fascinating for me. I learn something from everyone and I take it into the next show. So tonight is going to be no different. Yes, I say this every week. We're going to have the best show ever. And I mean it. Man, oh man, we've got an amazing guest tonight. So you know what we have to do? You have to tell your friends to join us. You have to text them. Mm-hmm. And you have to tag them on Facebook. And if you have a moment, you can give them a call and tell them that the Power of Transformation broadcast is on with Dr. Paula Obie. And you know they don't want to miss it. And I'm going to do the same thing. And then we're going to be right back. See you soon. Take care. I absolutely love that song. It just makes me kind of dance. I'm getting in the mood because tonight we're going to be talking about one of my all time favorite topics, and that's writing. Writing is just, well, I'm not going to tell you everything that writing does for you, but it does a lot. And there are some people who have an extra. Did I say extra special gift of writing? And when you know them, they start writing and you just get immersed in their writing. I call that an anointed gift. And that person, one of them, she's here tonight. And we're just going to talk about writing and what it means to her. And she's going to share with you what she has shared with me on a number of occasions when we would just sit and talk. So we want you to sit back, grab your beverage. We're going to talk about Crystal Roberts, my good friend. And she just has a passion for writing. And her words, they just come alive. They really come alive. And we're going to bring her in just a few minutes and just let her talk about her writing and what it means and how she started writing and what she's doing, what she's done. Oh man, Crystal, we're just going to have a good chat. So let's go ahead and bring in my good friend, Crystal Roberts. Crystal!
Hello, Paula.
Well, your flyer went by so quickly until I didn't even get a chance to talk about the tagline and how writing really ignites the heart.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things that if it's in my heart and we write it down, it means a lot. It's so good to see you.
It is wonderful to see you. And, since we work together, it's always a pleasure. You make my day when we see each other in the hallway on the way to doing whatever we're doing.
Whatever we're doing. That's right. And we're just going to sit back and relax and pretend that we're in the hallway or sitting down around the corner because we used to talk more often and now we're in different spaces. But every single time you're always motivating me. And I'm going to tell this story. I said it at one time before. I knew you were going to be like a really special person in our area when we're going through the process. At one point, you sent me this very expensive, when I say expensive, thank you note. I thought, this is nice. And then I opened it, and then you had written some of the most powerful words and just the best penmanship. And I just sat the thank you note right over in the corner, and it inspired me. It never lost its place. That's only one of the things you've done.
Aww.
Every time I turned around, you were always doing something to inspire me and inspire others. So I just want to say thank you, publicly, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're most welcome, and thank you because you inspire me.
That's so good to hear. So I'm going to talk about writing because now writing is something that's near and dear to my heart. I
Yeah.
published my debut novel,
Yes.
and we talked about your writing. So I got to sample some things, and I thought, oh, you have got to pursue this. You've got to find some time. Maybe you can do it in your sleep. But Crystal, you have a special gift. Let's talk about how
Mhm.
your gift, talk about you, your gift, how you're using it, and how we can inspire you to use it even more.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for all of that, Paula. I do feel as though writing is a gift that was heaven sent for me. It's a God given gift. I don't know that I'm a New York Times bestseller, but writing soothes me. I it's part of my self care ritual. I feel as well that words help to soothe others. And so, it's nothing for me to pin a note to someone who, with whom I've had a warm conversation, or, you know, just because we crossed paths. And it's very interesting because I do it and then I forget about it, because I moved to do it. And I remember getting a call from a gentleman who asked me if I knew his wife. And I said, I sure do. And she's passed on. And he said, well, she kept one of your cards that you sent. I sent her a thank you note. Sent her a thank you note because she spent some time with me and mentored me. And I just sent her a thank you note. And he said she kept that card. And he said, I'm looking at it right now. So it's just amazing how the act of, writing is really it's an act of love for me.
Wow. Wow.
Really is.
And I love the fact that you said it's an act of love. You probably had no idea what it meant to me,
Oh,
and you probably had no idea what it meant to her.
uh-huh.
So I just want to encourage you to continue writing. As I said, I don't know when you'll find the time, but in a couple of shows back, we did talk about
Mhm.
writing and self care,
Yes.
journaling. And
Mhm.
I used to go and buy those dollar and 20, well, they used to be at the dollar store,
Yes.
Now they're $1.25. Silly
Right.
little, with the multiplication tables on the back.
Yes.
But those I've outgrown those. But the other day I ran across a couple, and believe it or not, when I opened it, I said then what I wanted, and now it's happened.
Yes.
So how powerful is
That's it.
writing? You're
Right.
writing. The Bible says, "Write the vision and make it plain."
That's right.
And so I kept flipping the pages, and you're going to talk about journaling. And there were days when
Mhm.
I was not in a good place,
Right.
and it was written all over the
Understood.
pages
Yes.
of my life.
Hmm.
So talk to me about this
Hmm.
journal self care because you've done
Okay.
something really special with it.
So I will tell you that we are very much alike in that respect as writers, because it's just something that flows through our veins, right? We have to write.
Hmm.
And I enjoy purchasing beautiful journals. I have a stack of them, a stack of them. And I'll just pick up a journal, when I have something on my heart or in my head, and I will write in that journal. And it's fun to go back, and read some of those entries, because you are as a human being, you go through different things in life.
Hmm.
But the fact that you can go back and read it means that you've gotten through whatever trial or tribulation you had, or you can revisit, really positive events.
Yeah.
Um, but it really is. There are times when I can't wait to get home to write something down. And so I may put it in my phone, or I put it on a little sticky note, and then
Yes.
I'll get home and then I'll, fuse it into whatever I was writing or start a new page. So it really is an act of self-care because you're able to just release. It's very cathartic. And I shared with you, Paula, the story of my having a public relations consultancy, and my project manager was like a prayer partner for me as well. And she would motivate and inspire me with scriptures, and
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
she, on the corporate professional side, was just a wonderful, wonderful project manager. And I would be telling her about all of these ideas and my dreams, and she'd say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You have got to do a brain dump. You've got to write these things down so that you can prioritize."
Mhm.
And that's what journaling is.
Yeah.
Being able to just release and put whatever is on your heart onto a piece of paper. And I love the act of picking up a pen or pencil and the tactile, I'm tactile like that, and turning
Mhm.
a page.
Yeah.
So it just, it's just like breathing to me.
Right. And I want to say this because I like to dig a little deeper. There's some people who
Mhm.
are, and I'm going all the way there, and that's just who
Uh-huh.
I am. They're angry, they're
Yeah.
disappointed, they
Mhm.
are mad,
Mhm.
their life is in
Mhm.
turmoil, and I've been there, all of those things.
Yes.
And boy, when I pick up that pen
Yes.
and open that, I have more expensive ones now, that Dollar Tree journal,
Mhm.
I begin to release all of those moments and anger.
Yes.
I could pop that baby down and I'm good.
Yes. That's
So there
right.
are a lot of people walking around trying to figure out what they need to do first to change their
Yes.
life. Maybe they need to go to the dollar store. Well, I don't know. Maybe treat yourself and buy a journal and
Mhm.
start writing. Now, I
Yeah.
do have my favorite pens. I kind of like my
Mhm. Yes.
pen. We need to release these feelings.
Yeah.
And some people that are not good with talking,
Mhm.
they keep things bottled up on the inside.
Right.
How does writing help them release it?
Mhm.
Just you tell me.
Well, it really is cathartic. It's a way of taking a burden and, pulling it out of your soul,
Right.
just putting those things on paper. And one thing that I will caution the viewers, or the listeners, the writers who are listening, is that many times when we release, that release or that product is meant for your journal only, because words can heal, but they can also hurt.
Can you just repeat that?
Words can heal, but they can also hurt.
They can.
And you can't take that away. And I have done it before. I'll be honest. I've done it before because, creatives like ourselves are emotional, can be emotional. That's not a
Mhm.
bad thing. That
Mhm.
I call I think I might be an empath. um, but, when I am, angry, or, um, have something on my mind that I have to get off of my chest, I'll write it down, or I may write a letter to someone. And what I've had to learn, I'm now 60, but when I was 25 or 30 or even younger, I could fire off a letter that, now when I look back, I think to myself, probably should have let that get cold. And then, I probably should have rewritten it so that I could send something to a person to let them know how I was feeling in a manner that was less biting.
But you can always go back and write another letter.
That's true. That's
You
true.
can always go. You can always go back and say, okay. In addition to the one I just wrote you,
Yes. And,
this
and
one too.
usually it happens with, well, I shouldn't even say usually, because I've written letters to, you know, political, figures before.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but, I can remember I've been married twice, and I can remember, writing notes about, how I was feeling,
Yes.
and then being told perhaps, that was a little harsh. Well, I have a long fuse. So by the time I sit down to write something, it's because I haven't been heard, you're not listening, and so let me just get it all off of my chest. Um
And thank goodness, because we
mhm.
said we're going to talk like we normally talk at work. You
Yes.
have that outlet.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is a really big part of our mental health
Yes, it is.
and our emotional health.
Yes, it is.
Instead
Mhm.
of going and doing harm to yourself or doing,
Mhm.
you are sitting down and getting those words out on paper, and it's
Yeah.
helping you. I
Mhm.
like that. We have to be authentic though, Crystal. If we're mad, we're mad.
Yes.
You
That's
know,
right.
if we're happy, we're happy. I hear people say things like, "Oh, just work it out." I'm like, I'm working it out. I'm angry. So the Bible
Right.
says, "Tell the truth," and I'm going to get
Yes.
free. But now there's a
Mhm.
responsibility that I have. But
Right.
I notice that when I calm down or whatever I do, and
Mhm.
I start writing it, it transforms me.
Yes. Absolutely. And I also think, there's a process,
Right.
there's a writing process, right?
Mhm.
Right. So we do a brain dump, you
Right.
drop it all, and then you start weaving it together, and depending on how you want that product to be used, whether it's a journal or whether it's a letter or whether it's part of a book you're writing or you want someone to write it, I always I, here's this may sound morbid, but I think about what I'll be leaving behind. And if
Right.
people are to find my writing, I want them to learn something from it or be inspired by it or understand I was a human being and she must have been, really hurting or angry about something. But I want to leave breadcrumbs when I move away from here.
That is a great conversation and a legacy to leave.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's been gone a long time,
Yes.
and I found in one. My grandmother kept a lot of her things.
Mm-hmm.
I found in one of her envelopes a song my mother had written,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
I just stare at her because it's in her handwriting.
Yes.
Those are gems.
Yes, they are.
So
Yes,
we
they
have
are.
the ability to create gems to leave
Mm-hmm.
behind. The name of
Yes.
the song is "Try Jesus."
Wow.
And I don't know all the words because when look at it and you're like, yay.
Yes.
Those are things that are
Mm-hmm.
important and that you can pass on. So I totally
Yeah.
agree with you with on that.
Absolutely. My mother, my biological mother passed away when I was 11 months old.
Wow.
And my understanding is that she and my dad loved each other. They just had, everyone I talked to says that they just adored each other. And when he passed just in December, there was a small wallet that he kept. I mean, literally, it wasn't even a wallet. You know those plastic pieces that you might put an ID in? He
Mhm.
had a picture of my mother, his brother, and his two sisters in that. And my dad was a very loving, familial person, just family oriented. So these were the loves of his life. And the note that she had on that picture of herself, obviously I had been born because she said, to the sweetest husband on earth, we need you and we love you. She said, we. And it was written in her handwriting. I understand from him that she was a poet, that she wrote poetry, she taught English. So, there's something that he told me that I picked that up from her, that she was a writer. And so to have that picture with a note in her handwriting is so very special to me. So I know what you're talking about.
quite inspirational. And I will tell you, there are a lot of people. We were talking about this today. Again, it's like we're having this conversation right where we normally have, right in our offices.
Yes.
Someone was saying, "Well, shouldn't so and so be happy with what they have?" I'm like, "Well,
Yes.
maybe they don't have what you have.
Right. Right.
So maybe what you have is that million trillion dollar memory,
Uh-huh.
that your mother's handwriting."
Right.
And that will definitely fill an area in your heart that maybe someone else doesn't have. Whenever
Yeah.
I look at that song, and there were a couple of quite a few things that my grandmother had
Mm-hmm.
that she'd written. So I've in letters, and someone sent me a letter that she'd written them, and I thought,
Wow.
that's her hand.
That's special.
And
Mhm.
that's why I'm saying to whoever's listening, you need to try writing and journaling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
There's a
mean, anything.
power in it that we
Oh my,
underestimate
yes.
even now, because typing is fine, whatever, but
Mhm.
that writing does something for me that nothing
Yes.
else does. Okay,
Absolutely.
you said something earlier, and I
Mhm.
like I like I like what you said. Everything you write isn't for anybody else to read,
That's
or it's
right.
not supposed to go anywhere. What do you mean
Mhm.
by that, Crystal?
Well, some emotions are raw and you just need to get it, off of your chest, out of your head. And some of us have very dear friends, and I have very dear friends as well.
Hmm.
Um, but that very dear friend doesn't necessarily want to be roused out of the bed at 3 a.m. But if I
Right.
have something on my mind, and I have done this before, gotten up, picked up a notebook or a journal, and I have begun writing. So it depends on what's being said. You
Hmm.
know, these are notes to yourself. There are
Yeah.
some things that I call notes to myself.
Notes to source. Let me write
Note
that.
note
Note
to
to self.
self.
Note to
Right?
self. Notes
Yes.
to Paula.
Right. But I've been able to, and it may inspire you to write something else, but this particular message that I'm writing, or this particular string of words, is not necessarily going anywhere. I just needed to get it off of my chest. And again, I mentioned too that you may be feeling harshly about something.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it worth being harsh or sharing a harsh message with someone when all you really needed to do was get it off of your chest?
So if I'm in a situation where I'm harsh, or I'm hurt, or I'm confused, or I'm in trouble, that's one
Mhm.
great time to pick up the pen and write.
Yes.
Even when I'm super duper 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 excited
Right.
and I want to
Right.
preserve that moment, right?
Yes.
Let me get a pen. Now we can take pictures, but if you
Uh-huh.
could flip that picture over, or flip that one over
Mhm.
and add something to it, that's
Yeah.
another very powerful moment. And I think we're losing the ability to capture the moments in writing.
Yes. And I agree with you. I love that word preserve,
Preserve.
to preserve a moment. And don't get me wrong, I'm not um I am not saying to the writers out there, or the aspiring writers, or even, the journalers, not to ever share what you may feel with
Right.
other people. But initially get it off of your chest and then let it get cold. I have to do that even in my professional work. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
writing a press release or a feature story about a student or a teacher or a staff member, I want to let it get cold, because when I go back to it, there may be a different way that I want to weave something. But it also helps to take the edge off, right?
Right.
Just kind of softens it a little bit because you've
Mm-hmm.
gotten it off of your chest. And then if you really feel like you have to talk with someone about something, you've gotten the edge, the biting part. That's on paper.
Right. And I call that my notes. And those
Yeah, know yourself.
are my notes. So if I want to refer to something, I can refer to my notes or not refer to
Yeah,
my notes. It's a very
Right.
powerful tool
Hmm.
that opens the door. And I think I said
Yeah,
something about it opens the door to my heart.
absolutely.
Writing
Absolutely.
opens the door to my
Yes.
heart and it allows me to
Mhm.
really display what's in my heart. Think of all the songs that are written
Yes.
because
Right.
someone was maybe going through
Yeah.
something and
Hmm.
they just it was just a few words and they wrote it
Hmm.
down in a little journal and then they
Yeah.
hummed it and they came back and it just started with a
That's
few
right.
little words that are written.
That's right.
It's a very powerful entity.
Hmm.
And you know that I'm an author. I forget
Yes.
that I'm an author. And so are you.
Well, I will say that I have a book of poetry that has never been published. And, there are several books in my head and in my soul. My uncle, before he passed away about 3 years ago, told me that he wanted me to write a book about the family because each of the four of them, my dad, my uncle, and their two sisters, my aunts, put themselves through college. They sharecropped, they babysat, they sang, but they had a quartet. So they sang their way for the most part through college. They would sing at churches and such. And my uncle said, "What I want you to do is name this book." They said it couldn't be done because my grandparents had a third and fifth grade education, but they were bound and determined that their children were going to go to college, and they did very well. They went to college, they earned graduate degrees, and they were professionals. So he wants me to write that book, and I'm just trying to decide how to write it. So I'm doing a lot of research
Mhm.
by talking with family members, but also listening and reading others, and in terms of how they were able to accomplish, you know, biographical,
Right.
writing.
Yeah, yeah. I love
Hmm.
those kinds of stories. And I always ask myself when I'm reading those
Yes,
stories and how did they have the courage to push through?
yes,
How did they have the courage to get up and do it again? And where did the
right,
ideas come from? And I know a lot of it is gifting, but some of it just pops in your head and you're like, just do it.
yes,
And
that's right.
don't give up. I'm
Hmm.
going to be asking you a little bit more about that, project
Okay.
because I believe it's a very inspirational project that needs to happen.
Yes, I agree.
I I'm really grateful for writing.
Hmm.
When yes, you have to get their story out. When I was in
Yes,
my darkest day,
yes.
and I mean dark. I don't mean the lights were out.
Hmm.
No, dark,
Yes.
where I wasn't sure what I was going to do next.
Hmm.
It was the pen
Yes.
and the paper
Uh-huh.
that captured my tears
Hmm.
and my words and my hope. I don't
Yeah.
take it lightly.
Yes.
No
That's
one, no one was able to get through to me and get through to me. No one, no one.
yeah.
Nothing someone could say.
Wow.
No, leave me alone. I'm hurt
Mm-hmm.
down to the bone. But
Yes.
I cried and wrote,
Yes.
and I kept crying and kept writing,
Mm.
and I kept crying and kept writing until I stopped crying and I continued writing. I do
Yes.
not want people to underestimate the power of the pen.
Absolutely not. Absolute. And one of I talk, of course, birds of a feather flock together. So, you and I, just became good friends.
Mhm, mhm.
And our commonality was a love of writing. And I've spoken to others who have said to me, if you want to write a book, just write a page a day. In 365 days, you have a novel
That's
or two
true.
novels.
For true.
It takes discipline. And there's a difference between, I think, discipline and picking up a pen and writing because you feel it.
Right.
Because I may not feel like writing for 2 or 3 days because I've worked all day and I've worked 12 or 15 hours, and I'm just tired. But that discipline
Yeah.
is what I have heard writers say is kind of a um, it's a juxtaposition because we love what we do. So who wants to force themselves to do what they love, right?
Right,
You shouldn't
right.
have to force yourself. But if you want a product, you have to have some discipline behind it.
You have to try.
You have to try. Yes.
You have to
Uh-huh.
try. And it may be that you only have time for 5 minutes or 10.
Right.
And that's acceptable. I think we have to give ourselves, you
Hmm.
could probably write a lot in 5 minutes or 10. And you never know how
Yeah,
that would inspire you to continue writing.
that's exactly right. Well, the name of your show is The Power of Transformation. And
Right.
writing transforms.
It does. And and
Absolutely.
and and Romans 12:2 says, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of
Mhm.
your mind." And everybody keeps asking me about the second book. I'm like, I'm still working on marketing the first one.
Uh-huh.
But there's more to
Yeah,
everybody's story.
right.
I'm
Right.
still thinking about the sharecroppers who said what?
Yeah. Yes. They said it couldn't be done.
They said it couldn't be done.
Hmm.
There's probably so much inspiration
Hmm.
that's forthcoming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it sounds like a sweet story, right? But you're
It's,
talking about my dad was 91 when
yeah.
he died. So you can just imagine what he went through, he and his siblings, and my grandparents. And even within our family, there was a family member who said to her, you ought to have those kids working. You've got them going to school. And he said, you ought to have those kids working. And she said, those are my children. And she said, and you're not going to tell me what to do with my children. And she said, my understanding, because she was petite like you, Paula, she was tiny. And she said, and if you say one more word, I will knock your head off.
See, that's that other side. That's that other side. That's a good story. So that's the other side. And what's really wonderful about the passion? I know. Are you a writing coach? Do you do a little coaching?
Yes.
You could. Okay.
Mhm.
So
I,
let's just say for grins and giggles,
uh-huh.
someone says, "I'm inspired, and I really want to start writing. I want to start journaling. I
Yes.
want to
Hmm.
start. I have all this energy. I want to start. How can
Hmm.
we get in contact with you?"
So you can email me at crystalkempsonroberts at gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook. Now it's a personal Facebook page, but you can message me, and we can have a consultation. We can talk about what
Hmm.
it is that you're needing.
Yes, because I'm kind of feeling that these things are going to kind of open up for you after tonight.
Mhm.
We need to get together, everyone who's listening, and encourage her to write this family story because I'm feeling that it's really going to be so powerful.
It will.
And you know
Mhm.
who is going to bless the most? You.
Isn't that the truth? Just
Just
learning more.
knowing that your family, and I know we're getting ready to rev this train up and bring it into the station, but you
Uh-huh.
look at what you were able to accomplish. Not
Yes.
just one person.
Right.
I'm
Right.
already excited about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you need to just think about it and just get your little
Hmm.
pen, get that very expensive journal that you've
I
written.
agree. Well, I promised my uncle, and
Good,
so
good.
he has gone to glory, but I promised him, and I am going to do it. I don't
And
know that it would maybe a chapter will be named. They said it couldn't be done, but
who
he said
knows?
that's got to be in there somewhere. But I promised him, and I'm not going to renege on that promise.
I have faith in you. And there
Yes.
are a lot of
Thank
people
you.
who need it. Yes. And I thought about that the other day. I come from a very small town. These are small
Hmm.
town stories. I was trying to figure out before I got on earlier the population of my town when I was born.
Uh-huh.
But I couldn't really get that information, but I did get the population of it
Hmm.
11 years later. And I
Okay.
thought about in small towns, people have to overcome a lot of obstacles.
Yes.
I'm standing at the grave site. There's a picture of me standing with my grandmother
Uh-huh.
after we've lowered my mom.
Yeah.
And the look on that little girl's face
Yeah.
said she wasn't going to make it. And
Mhm.
people were saying things to me, and I have a point to make. What is
Yes.
she going to do now? Oh my God, how is
Yes.
she going to make it?
Yes.
Well, guess what? Writing was a big part
Yes.
of me getting through because things
Mhm.
don't, just become really wonderful overnight.
Right.
Writing was a big part of me getting
Mm.
through it.
Isn't it a blessing to be able to do that and to know
Yes.
you can do it?
Yes. And
Yes.
and I would write it and I could put it in my purse and take it with me.
Yes.
So we've got 5 minutes. Oh my goodness. How did
Okay.
this happen? Now I've got to turn this train. This train has to come back into the station. And I'm
Yes.
just so jazzed. I can help you write it if you want to. I'm just kidding. I've got some love stories to write. But what are you saying to that person
Mhm.
who has abandoned their gift of
Mhm.
writing? What can you say
Oh,
to them in
wow.
5 minutes?
I
And you
would
sit
say
down there
that
to
it's not too late. It
uh,
is never too late to pick it back up because I tell you what, the gift that you have and that you were born with will it will never go away. No one can take it from you, and so it is there. It is there, and someone, not only you are going to be blessed by it, but someone is going to be blessed by your gift. And isn't that why we're all here? We are our brother's keepers and we are here for each other. So share it.
and it's very inexpensive to do. It's not
Yes.
like you have to
Mhm.
purchase a lot of equipment.
Mhm.
Pen,
No, you do
no.
not. You just have to put the brain power behind it,
Yes.
and don't and not be afraid to just let your emotions flow.
So even if it's 5 minutes, give yourself the five
Mhm.
and then move
Absolutely.
it up to 10.
And you know what, Paula, it doesn't have to be always emotional either. You may have a story, a non a fictional story that you want to tell that you've come up with.
Just because you've been inspired. Because
Yes.
you've been inspired by tonight's show.
Yes.
I believe it. I believe it. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, I'm
Okay.
so excited. All right, so because now I've got things rolling around in my head. Okay, two things. We're gonna bring this train in, and we also have a replay of this broadcast on Saturdays at 2 o'clock on the ALH broadcasting station. So I will definitely remind everybody to join us. Also, right after this
Mhm.
broadcast, it's available as well. But I'm excited because I know the power of writing, and so do
Yeah.
you. And as we bring this train into the station, steer it. I'm going to say, Crystal, what I say every Wednesday. You
Yeah.
have to trust the process
Mhm.
in order for the power of transformation to do its perfect work. And I'm going to say, you have to trust the process to get those writings out,
Yes.
Crystal, so that we then can share what God has placed in our heart. We're going to unlock those treasures. I'm so excited.
Thank you, Paula. You have inspired me. I was supposed to come and inspire your listeners and
Oh,
viewers, but you have inspired me and us. And thank you so much.
but that's what we've always done, inspire each
Yes.
other. And that's what the show's
That's
about.
right.
Okay, I'm looking to hear from some folks because I know people have need to pick up their pen and everything. And don't
Yes,
forget to journal because that's part of your self-care. So
it is.
everybody, we're gonna see you next week. We're gonna have more and more conversations. I'm so excited. I might even go and start, working on my book. And I'm gonna keep you poking you until we
Please
get that
do.
done.
Work on that book, Paula. We'll work on it together.
Yes, we will. Crystal, my friend, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
I
This was
appreciate
fun.
it. It was fun. And everybody, we'll see you next week. You have a great time. Love you. Bye bye. See ya.